What's good, Combat Sports fans? UFC 310 is this weekend, so you already know I had to come through with a breakdown. So welcome back to another episode of Combat and Kick It. Let's get it. Let's go. So like I said, welcome back to another episode of Combat and Kick It. You already know it's your host, Bando, back at it with a breakdown for UFC 310. So I'm not going to waste no time. We're going to get right into it. This is a stacked card, and I'm not talking about just the main card, all the way from the early prelims all the way to the main event. We got some fantastic fights. Obviously, you know me, I break down the main card most of the time, but I'm going to break down from the prelims to the main event, and I'm going to give you my predictions for the early prelims as well. So let's start on it. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's see what we got. So opening the card, you got Kennedy Nzechukwu, if I pronounce that correctly, going up against Lucas Brzeski. Brzeski was supposed to fight somebody else, so this is a short notice fight or a late replacement fight with Kennedy Nzechukwu. With Kennedy. We just gonna say Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy. That's what we gonna say with it. Right? Heavyweight matchup. Kennedy coming off of a great win over Chris Barnett. Great win over him. Quick win. Didn't take really any damage at all in the fight, so he's still fresh. Gonna come into this fight. I'm rocking with him to get the win. Then you got Clay Guida versus Chase Hooper. I'm going with Chase Hooper. Clay Guida is obviously a veteran, been in the game a long ass time, but Chase Hooper's slick. He's young, he's hungry, he's got more reason to get a win, he's got more hunger to get the win. I'm going with Chase Hooper. Then you got Michael Chiesa versus Max Griffin. I'm going with Michael Chiesa in that one. I think he's going to continue to ride that wave after getting that win over Tony Ferguson, and he's going to be back with a little bit of momentum. So I'm going with Michael Chiesa. Then you got Cody Durden versus Joshua Van. I like Joshua Van in this matchup. He has been continuing to get better, so I think this is just going to be another one of those matchups that shows that he is continuing to get better. So I'm rocking with Joshua Van. And then you got Chris Weidman and Eric Anders. I'm going with Chris Weidman. If Chris Weidman can be smart, not get drawn into a slugfest with Eric Anders and fight Eric Anders' fight, then Chris Weidman has no problem with getting probably a decision win. So on to the breakdown. Starting off in the prelims, you got Randy Rude Boy Brown going up against Bryan Battle. I love this matchup. You got two tall strikers, very clean strikers, right? But also two guys who are not afraid to get into a slugfest. If this fight somehow gets drawn into a slugfest, they're both cool with getting in a slugfest, right? Bryan Battle had a fantastic last win. When it went to Paris, got the win, had crazy call-outs at the end of it. I'm very, very interested to see if he can continue riding that wave. Randy Brown, we obviously know, very talented, very skilled. He's got a lot of pop in his punches. He'll come through with some crazy techniques. The thing that draws me most to this fight is, you know, right when that bell rings, they're going to meet right in the middle and get to action. Who am I leaning with? I'm leaning with Bryan Battle. I've seen Bryan Battle a few times now, only having that one loss, and that was really just a loss of him getting wrestled. I think striking-wise, he's a little bit more tenacious than Randy Brown is, and it's going to make for an interesting fight. I'm going with Bryan Battle on a win for that one. Now you got Movsar Evloev going up against Aljamain Sterling. You got a former bantamweight champion in Aljamain Sterling and a rising contender in Movsar Evloev. A lot of people think Movsar should come into here, get an easy win, continue to ride that undefeated wave, and be the next guy to kind of be in conversation for a title shot. But I think Aljamain Sterling is going to spoil the show for him. I feel like Movsar has not fought anybody with the same skill set wrestling that Aljamain Sterling has. Aljo actually poses a threat on the ground, unlike a lot of the other fighters that Movsar fought. I thought his fight against Arnold Allen was pretty close, but Arnold Allen is somebody that's not known for his wrestling. Aljo is. I think Aljo is going to be able to find the control in this fight. I can see him putting Movsar on his back. I can also see Evloev putting Aljo on his back. But if Aljo is able to get a body lock situation and kind of just hold it, you know how Aljo does. Aljo will stall his way all the way to a decision. So I am leaning with Aljamain Sterling with a decision on that one. Vicente Luque versus Themba Gorimbo. I like this matchup too. It was originally supposed to be Vicente Luque versus Nick Diaz. Obviously, Nick Diaz is out of it for whatever reason. That could be a completely separate episode just talking about Nick Diaz in a whole. But, you know, unfortunate situation, whatever case may be. But we got Vicente Luque versus Themba Gorimbo now. Obviously, short notice matchup. Who's going to win this fight? Now, it's a toss-up, but I would probably lean towards Vicente Luque. The reason I say that is because Vicente Luque has now had 2 back-to-back camps, so he's extremely fresh. Not that Themba can't be coming into this fight fresh. He's probably very fresh as well, but it is a short-notice fight. Less time to train for Vicente Luque's style, and Vicente Luque was probably training for a stand-up matchup against Nick Diaz, and obviously we know the jiu-jitsu of Vicente Luque is very skilled too. I have this feeling that he's going to get a submission win in this one. Right, I am leaning Vicente Luque win regardless. I think Themba Gorimbo is some guy that can get it done against Vicente Luque if it was a full fight camp and he has the full training that he needs to for that fight. I think it could go his way, but I think it's better off leaning Vicente Luque on Saturday night. So it's the last fight on the prelims. You got Dominic Reyes going up against Anthony Smith. I'm rocking with Dominic Reyes. Not to say that Anthony Smith can't get this done. Both men's chins have been cracked in the recent years. But I feel like in terms of somebody getting knocked out in this fight, Dominic Reyes poses more of a threat with the power than Anthony Smith does. So I can see Dominic Reyes landing and getting a finish. I'm rocking with Dominic Reyes second round KO. I mean, it could be a stretch. Could be a stretch. I could see Anthony Smith clipping him, so it's not impossible. But I feel as if there's going to be a knockout, it's going to be leaning on Dominic Reyes' side because of the power. Ladies and gentlemen, we on to that main card breakdown. UFC 310 opening the card is an absolute banger of a matchup with Nate Landwehr going up against Doo Ho Choi. If you're not hip to either of them, you need to go get hip ASAP, right? Doo Ho Choi holds a Hall of Fame fight performance with Cub Swanson with, I think it was the fight of the year in 2016. I may be wrong, 15, 16, something around that time. But it was a fantastic fight, back and forth. They literally threw caution to the wind and just slugged it out. It was an amazing fight. And Doo Ho Choi seemed extremely promising from that performance and performances after that. I think he is really skilled. I think he has fantastic striking. He's very technical and patient, right? You saw the way he did Bill Algeo. Bill Algeo was shooting all night, trying to work the takedowns. He couldn't keep him down, couldn't hold him down. And anytime it was on the feet, Doo Ho Choi was able to land clean shots and ended up landing that clean left hand and proceeded to get the finish. But he's going up against a guy I don't see him being able to finish. Nate Landwehr is a savage. He's got the name Nate the Train for a reason. He's an absolute animal, and he is going to meet Doo Ho Choi right in the middle and get to work. As simple as that. This is going to be war. If Doo Ho Choi gets pulled into the slugfest, into the war with Nate, it's over with. It's going to lean clearly into Nate's favor. He's going to take that W. He's going to walk out with his hand raised. But if Doo Ho Choi is smart, patient, technical, could end up being a slightly boring fight if he's able to pull this off. Just keeping distance, staying away from him, landing counter shots here and there, but I just don't see it happening. I think the intensity that Nate brings, he's not that he's crazy skilled, but he's just ready to go in there. Like he's always ready. He's not one of those guys who talks big game and doesn't perform. He comes in there and he shows up. Win, lose, or draw, he shows up. And he's going to show up on Saturday, and I just got to lean with him. And I made my bets on here too. So for this one, I am going, if you're betting a single bet, right, just a single bet, I would go with Nate the Train by KO, TKO, plus 300. It's not bad. It's good odds. I would take it. Moving on to Bryce Mitchell versus Kron Gracie. This is a jiu-jitsu matchup, you would think, right? It kind of seems like this should just be on the ground. Whoever's the better man on the ground is going to get the W. But here is the thing. You got Bryce Mitchell coming off of that really, really difficult KO. Like, extremely difficult KO. Let me bring the mic closer. I don't even know if people can really hear me. Very, very tough KO against Josh Emmett. So tough that he had to put himself out. He had to put himself on medical suspension to stay away from taking any more damage. And it was smart, right? And I think maybe the time off may have benefited him enough for him to come back very fresh and ready to go. And he's fighting a guy who's really not known to be a powerful striker or a highly skilled striker in any sense of the way. He's fighting somebody who is known, and his entire background of his family is known for their jiu-jitsu skill. And he's a very violent dude. Not violent. I don't know why I said violent. He is a very he's a very talented fighter off of his back, right? But if that's all he has to offer, he's going to lose. Very similar to the way that it was against Charles Jourdain. He was just trying to butt scoot his way to a victory, and he could not get it. Charles Jourdain just kept landing heavy shots on him on the ground, and then proceeded to get back up and did it again. You know, it was almost like a video game, it felt like. But he cannot come into this fight like that. He has to come into this fight much more prepared, and it has to be either you setting up for a takedown or you're catching Bryce when Bryce is entering. I think Bryce has a more dominant wrestling background, so if the fight does go to the ground, control-wise, I can see Bryce having control, but he would have to be up against the cage, utilizing the cage work, not allowing Kron to be in a comfortable position to be able to throw up them submissions, right? So I am leaning with Bryce Mitchell, and my bets for that one are so if you want the safe bet, the safe single bet, I'm going with Bryce Mitchell by decision. It's a minus 200. Obviously, you put some money down, you're not winning much off of it, but it seems like the safest bet. But now at the same time, Kron Gracie for submission is a plus 1200. So I'm not saying that that's a lock, but I'm saying plus 1200 is some beautiful odds for a man who's 95% chance if he's going to get a victory, his only route is by submission. So you heard me say it here. Plus 1200. Those are good odds for somebody like Kron Gracie. But if you're going with the safe bet, Bryce Mitchell by decision. Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov. A heavyweight matchup that we've been waiting for. We've been anticipating for a little while now. It got canceled the first time it was supposed to happen. These men get a second training camp for each other, and it's about to happen this Saturday at UFC 310. It's going to be a striking matchup, I promise you that. If this fight goes to the ground, I'll actually just be pissed off. I'll be angry. This fight needs to be a striking matchup. You got a kickboxer who is so clean, bouncy on his feet, throws good kicks, throws good punches, and is powerful with Cyril Gane. And then you have a guy who's a good kickboxer as well, very good at utilizing his reach and using his distance in Alexander Volkov. Who's going to win this fight? Now that's the toughest thing to really figure out. Who's going to win this fight? It could either be a fight that ends quick because you got two heavyweights in there, somebody gets cracked and goes to sleep, or it could be an extremely boring 3-round fight of guys just kind of tapping their way and sizing each other up for 3 rounds. But I expect this one to be exciting because the first time they were supposed to fight was in that, that Abu Dhabi card, got canceled. This is a better card. This is a funner card. I just think that it's going to be much more exciting than what we expect it to be, right? I think it's going to be extremely exciting. I think it's going to be a little bit of a slugfest. I think it's going to be a little bit of a slugfest with Cyril Gane getting his hand raised. I really do. I think Volkov can win. It's not that Volkov can't win. He could keep his distance and maintain the distance and end up getting a W through that. But I think Cyril Gane, if you watch some of the training videos of recent, you got to watch some of the vlogs, the training videos, a little bit of Cyril Gane recently. He looks like he's back with a vengeance, right? He made a huge error against John Jones. And the huge error is not being prepared with any takedown defense, any wrestling skill, and just not going at him. And he fought John Jones and lost. He's pissed. He wants to come back and get a W. A huge statement to be made can be made off of Alexander Volkov, and that puts you right in the conversation for the title shot again. Simply because if John Jones and Tom Aspinall doesn't happen, which does seem like it's going to, but if it doesn't happen, Tom Aspinall is going to need more dance partners. So the winner of this could be the dance partner, but Tom Aspinall already finished Volkov, and he did it very easily, single-handedly, no problem. Cyril Gane would be a new fresh face for him. I still think it's a takedown fight. Tom would take him down and submit him as well. But in this fight, I'm going with Cyril Gane. Betting, I am going with the solo bet of Cyril Gane KO TKO at plus 350. Try to get yourself some good odds. To me, that's the only way that he's really going to get a clean victory is by KO TKO. And if it is an exciting fight, it's going to end up someone's getting knocked out. So I would go with Cyril Gane KO TKO if you're taking a single bet. If you're doing a parlay bet, though, Cyril Gane money line minus 375. Kind of play it safe a little bit. Play it safe. It'll get the win, but play it safe. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are on to the co-main event. Shavkat Rakhmonov going up against Ian Machado Gary. I love this. Obviously, Shavkat, Saturday night was supposed to be his night, right? It was supposed to be his main event against Bilal Muhammad, his opportunity to become the welterweight champion. Could he have done it? I truthfully think he could have. But instead, he's got a more exciting matchup this Saturday, right? Bilal pulls out, understandably so, the injury and everything like that. But this is a more exciting matchup. And the reason I say that is because you got two undefeated guys who are on the come up, both in their prime, both extremely skilled, have sparred with each other and trained with each other before. You got one of them who has 100% finish rate. And you have another guy who hasn't really been tested yet. No one has put him through the ringer yet. He is really beating every guy. Not like crazy, like single-handedly, but he's been beating guys no problem, right? No problem. Beat guys like Neil Magny, no problem. Got past MVP, no problem. Not the most exciting fights, but he's getting the clear wins is basically what I'm trying to say. I think Shavkat, though, is the more powerful, the better wrestler, obviously, better on the ground, more powerful, heavier puncher. The only thing that I see Ian Gary being more skilled at is the striking aspect in terms of, you watch Shavkat, he drops his hands a lot. And Jeff Neal was able to crack him plenty of times in that fight. He does drop his hands a lot. But Ian Gary is one of those guys who is better on the counter than he is on the attack a lot of the time. So if he gets that moment to counter where Shavkat's got his hands down, that would be his keys to victory. But he needs to make sure that his takedown defense is on point for this. It's not that Shavkat shoots a lot, but if there's any trouble, Shavkat will shoot, and he can hold you down if he has to. With Ian Gary, Ian really has to be slow-paced, smart, methodical, use his distance, tap away, see if he can do it for, first round and a half. I can see Ian Gary actually having success in this first round, right? But then I can see Shavkat taking over. It's a fight that can truly go either way because you got two undefeated guys on the come up. But how do you go against the guy who has 100% finish rate? I mean, that's so hard to do. Go up against a guy who has 100% finish rate. And he's beaten different styles already. So it's not like you can sit back and say, oh, well, he hasn't fought a wrestler. Yes, he has. He hasn't fought a striker. Yes, he has. He's fought every aspect that he can fight. So he's proven himself to be extremely skilled. His 100% finish rate is not a fluke rate. People are trying to say it's not even legit. Like, what? His 100% finish rate in MMA is not something that is fluke. That is pure skill, pure talent. This man is skilled. But I think Ian Gary does have the IQ to be able to get this fight done. He might have to make it a little boring. I do believe he has the IQ to get this fight done. One, because they did train together. And two, because if anybody's going to get it done, it would have to be somebody like Ian Gary. Somebody who is a long striker. Somebody who is willing to be slow-paced to get the win. willing to kind of point strike you, willing to stay distant, but he has to make sure that the takedown defense is on point. Otherwise, it's just going to be like Shavkat versus Wonderboy. But my overall prediction is I'm going with Shavkat to get the win. I just think that it's supposed to be his night anyways, fighting for the title. And losing this fight would stump him completely from getting that title shot next. It would be Ian Gary's now. So he needs to win this fight. He took a very risky fight. He has to win this fight. He knows that. He realizes that. I think he's going to get it done. My bet predictions: Shavkat by submission at plus 180 if you want to go with a solo bet. And believe it or not, if you're doing a parlay, I would say for this one, for the fight to go the distance, it's a plus 165. It's not impossible. If anybody's going to take Shavkat the distance, it'll be Ian Gary. He'll find a way. It's just one of those things. It's not that he's that super skilled or anything like that. He just seems like the type of fighter who will find a way to either coast to victory or coast to a decision. You know, whether it is a win, lose, draw, whatever the case may be, I can see him pulling this fight to a decision. We'll see what happens. I could be wrong. The 100% finish rate for Shavkat can continue on, but we'll see what happens. But my final prediction is obviously Shavkat to get the win. It's not impossible for Ian Gary to shock the world. So on to the flyweight main event. Pretty interesting fight between Alexandre Pantoja, Alexander Pantoja, I don't know how to say it, but it's Pantoja, the Savage Pantoja, going up against the newcomer, but not a newcomer to the game, just a newcomer to the UFC, the former Ryzen champion, Kai Asakura. This is going to be an interesting matchup because whenever a guy comes over from another promotion, in my opinion, it's either they're going to come out and shine or it's going to be a bore fest and they get a boring W or they get completely exposed. Something like that's going to happen. I think Kai Asakura is the type of guy who's going to come here and shine. He knows that a lot of people want to see him shine. He brings a new wave to the division. He would switch things up a lot if he did get this win. But can he get it done? Can he get it done? That's the tough thing. If this fight stays on the feet, I do believe he can get it done. Now, Pantoja is somebody who's easy to get drawn into a slugfest, but he will also stay in the pocket and trade all night. All 5 rounds, he will stand in the pocket and trade, right? He'll get so sloppy. He'll look like he's damn near close to dead in the 5th round and still somehow pull out the win by decision. But I don't think he would want to do that against Kai Asakura because Kai Asakura packs a lot of power in his punches. And when I say that, I mean it because he literally cracked somebody's jaw in Ryzen. And I'm not talking about like, oh, he got his jaw. He literally, like, his jaw down the middle right here. If I can find a picture, I'll post it. Was cracked. Just down like that. Fully cracked. So you could tell he's got a lot of power. But if this fight goes to the ground, who's it going to lean with? I think it's going to lean with Pantoja. I think Pantoja's got the better jiu-jitsu. I also think the fact that Ryzen Kai Asakura was able to use knees on the ground, kicks to a ground opponent. You know, I know it's not a huge thing that it's getting taken away, right? Not that it's going to play a huge factor, but it is tools to utilize when a fight goes to the ground to help guys who are not that crazy good at the grappling aspect. I think his ground game is probably good. From what I see, it seems like it's decent enough, but I also do see him using knees a lot on the ground, throwing kicks on to a ground opponent, and not that he's going to do that and get DQ'd or anything. It's just a lot of that can be a setup for what he's going to do on the ground, and he doesn't have that now, so it could play a part. I don't see Pantoja getting the win by submission or anything like that. I see if Pantoja gets the win, it'd be by like a split decision or something like that. But I do truly believe that Kai Asakura is that talented. He is one of those guys, one of those people out there that is in other promotions that I firmly believe can come over and hang with every guy in the UFC no problem, especially in this division. This division needs more people. It needs more characters. It needs more fun people. It needs more talent. If you look through the roster, there's a lot of talent, but it doesn't seem like a lot of them fight, right? Or a lot of them get exposed when they're supposed to be the next big thing. You got Muhammad Makayev, who was supposed to be the next big thing, and he's not even in the UFC anymore. But now Cape, every time he gets a fight booked, it doesn't even go through, right? You've seen the same people in the top of the division for a while now. This is a fantastic shake up, and who knows what can come from this. If the UFC is eyeing more rising competitors, guys that contracts are going to be ending up soon, and you know, more talent for divisions like the flyweights, like the bantamweights, like the featherweights, those lightweights that people want to see. The fun, probably the most fun weight classes, even though it is seeming like welterweight is on its way to becoming a pretty exciting weight class. Those lightweight classes are sometimes the most exciting ones. So, brings a shakeup, brings some excitement. I can see Kai Asakura becoming the new flyweight champion on Saturday night. But my predictions, solo bet, I'm going with Kai Asakura. Money line plus 210. You know, underdog, but live dog. Truly a live dog. I don't understand how he's coming in as a plus 210. I understand he's a champion from a different promotion, but what Steve Erceg was able to do against Pantoja, I think Kai Asakura will have no problem being able to do the same thing. And some of those shots that Erceg landed, if Kai Asakura lands those same shots, I can see him getting a finish. Now, we know Pantoja has a fantastic chin. Can it get cracked by the guy who cracks chins? We'll find out. We'll find out. I look at Pantoja a little bit like a boogeyman, but his last couple performances weren't like that incredible. But he's talented. He's got skill. He knows how to pull it out, and he's a savage. He's gritty. We'll see what happens. He's not trying to let another guy from a different promotion come over, make their name and statement, and become champion in their first fight in the UFC off of him. You know, everybody's going to talk about that on Monday. Think about that. Everybody's going to talk about that on Monday. All the fight fans will be talking about the fact that Kai Asakura came from a different promotion and got a W. And the W was the first fight for a championship. Like, that's going to be discussed. It's going to be talked about a lot. But I would say Kai Asakura money line plus 210. Or you could take the parlay bet. You got two options on this parlay bet. If you take Pantoja by submission, right? Like I said, if this fight goes to the ground, Pantoja is the higher level jiu-jitsu artist for sure. So him being a plus 165 on submission is pretty solid odds to throw on a parlay, right? Especially if you say you take like a favorites parlay and you just throw that one little plus 165 in there, it helps the odds tremendously. And you might be able to really get on something, maybe cash out on something, who knows, get through to that. But I can see if this fight goes to the ground, Pantoja getting the victory. But then at the same time, plus 350 for Kai by KO. Juicy odds too. If you're really trying to see if you can win some good bread, plus 350, that's not terrible. He does have a potential to knock him out. We'll find out on Saturday night. I am leaning with Kai Asakura. Hashtag and new. That's my breakdown for UFC 310. I hope you guys enjoyed. I do have one quick announcement that did just pop up. It popped up today, actually. For January's main event for the pay-per-view is for UFC. Oh my God, I can't even talk. The announcement is UFC 311 main event. Islam Makhachev is defending his belt against Arman Sarukian. So that is a fantastic matchup. Fantastic matchup. Very exciting lightweight matchup. So you know the breakdown will be coming soon, but we got some time. Overall, I appreciate you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification button so you know when the next episode is out. And I'll catch you on the next episode. Your boy Bando is out. Peace.